Good morning and welcome to the Makino webinar on High Performance Machining Center Return on Investment, the True Value Revealed. I'm Tom Clark, Vice President here at Makino, and assisting me today is Tom Scherpenberg, our Manager of Customer Finance. And today we'd like to talk to you about creating an actual ROI and how a higher priced machine can actually return a better return on investment for you. Can a higher cost solution actually yield a better ROI for your operation? What is typically ignored in a return on investment approach? And how to improve your actual return on investment to increase the profits and cash flow for your company? And then can leasing your equipment yield a better return on investment than traditional financing? Typically we look at return on investments, or more importantly, our finance people look at return on investments, and they consider the acquisition price of the equipment, maybe to the exclusion of other things. In this visual, we look at the iceberg and the hidden costs of ownership that lie just beneath the water's surface. How many of these are accurately portrayed in your return on investment calculation? And we will try to explain today how those can dramatically change your cost per part and your profitability for your business. We feel it's very important to look at the total life cycle cost of the equipment, and today acquisition costs tend to be the primary focus of return on investment calculations, the installation of that equipment, the purchase price of that equipment, the training and setup. But in reality, the operating cost, the maintenance cost, and the decommissioning cost at the end of the contract can have a dramatic impact on the actual ROI of your project. From direct labor to consumable tooling, lost production time, the parts to maintain the equipment, preventive maintenance, the cost of repair, unscheduled downtime, and then decommissioning. What do you do with that equipment at the end of this contract or the end of its useful life? We're going to evaluate a couple different scenarios here. We have a low-cost vertical machining center compared to a Makino vertical machining center, in this example our PS95, and we're going to use a 60% cost premium over the low-cost machine to dramatize these results. Our second example shows a low-cost horizontal machining center solution compared to a Makino A51 machine that's going to be costing 50% more than the low-cost solution. And then we want to talk a little bit about how automating these machining centers can improve your ROI and the benefits of leasing the equipment and how those can impact your ROI. So what you see here on the screen is a very comprehensive spreadsheet that's very difficult to read. I understand that. It will be available if you make a request for the spreadsheet. We can send it to you so you can adjust and play with the numbers for your own particular examples. But what we've done is look at all attributes of an ROI and compared that from the low-cost machine to the Makino PS95. And from this visual, what you should take away is on the far right-hand column is the Makino solution. And though we are 60% higher price, you can see all the areas marked in yellow that are an advantage for the Makino in this return on investment. Let's go through in a little bit more detail. So looking at this example, hypothetical, we're going to produce 87,500 parts per year, and the cycle time per part on a low-cost machine is 18 minutes. The Makino, or a high-quality machine, is going to produce that part in 16 minutes. Because of a higher quality machine is going to have reduced scrap rate, we have taken the scrap rate from 1.5 down to 0.75%. We look at improved uptime and improved utilization or efficiency with the higher cost machine solution. And in this example, that realizes that Makino needs 5 machines to produce this quantity of parts, where our low-cost competitor might require 7 machines. But even with that 2-machine premium, their $90,000 price per machine still yields a lower total machine cost than the Makino solution. So again, most traditional ROIs stop at this point to say that I need to buy the low-cost machine, and we think that's short-sighted. We need to look a little bit deeper into the support costs of that equipment. So continuing on this page, you see on the right-hand column Makino advantages in rigging, fixture cost per machine because there are less machines, The durable tooling sets on each machine, again, there are less machines. So by the end of the durable investment phase, we're almost on par with the low-cost solution, even though they started out with a substantially lower price for the equipment. So a higher quality machine should deliver improved tool life and performance. A higher quality machine will reduce the consumable tooling cost. It will increase your part quality and accuracy and thereby reduce your scrap costs. These are very important to creating an actual ROI for your equipment. Going back to our spreadsheet now, we see some of those numbers where we look down at the expense line and see the operator cost. Again, we have an advantage with lower number of machines with the reduced number of operators. The maintenance cost on a high quality machine, again, is going to be lower than on a low cost machine. And the perishable tooling cost is going to be better with a higher quality spindle. We can't possibly estimate what the value in your operation is of reduced floor space consumption or unplanned downtime cost, but those are certainly other impacts to this ROI. At the bottom of this page, though, you see that the cost per piece of a Makino high-quality solution is just under $15 per part. Our low-cost machining center solution, again, the machine that is 60% less to acquire, actually has a part cost that's approaching $20 per part. So how can a better quality spindle reduce these part costs? Does your ROI model that you're using value the lower part cost due to improved tool life? Just looking at the perishable tool cost, I put in a number of $2 a part as an assumption. Makino has typically shown at least a 15% improvement in tool life on perishable tool cost. That alone can reduce your part cost in total by more than 2%. It can increase your return on capital by over 6%, increase your gross profit margin by 2%, and cut your scrap rate in half. So you must consider the impact of the higher quality machine and a high quality spindle in your return on investment calculation. A case study of this is Stephen at CNC Manufacturing, who talks about the rigidity and capability of the A51 and that they're seeing a 40% improvement in their tool life, even in tough stainless steel, that they're able to use new tooling technologies that increase productivity, and while giving them the confidence to run the machines even unattended. This is what we're looking for in today's manufacturing, that it's going to show up in your overall actual ROI and part costs. So in summary, what we have with the vertical machining center ROI estimation is the Makino at $145,000, the cheap machine at $90,000, a very dramatic difference. A slight improvement in cycle time from 18 to 16 minutes. We have less machines, and the contract I assumed here was a 3-year duration. But the reality is that Makino has a 25% lower cost per part. Our return on capital is more than 2 times the low-cost solution, and our gross profit margin across this 3-year contract is 68% with the Makino versus 25% on the competitor. So let's apply the same type of reasoning and analysis to a horizontal machining center example. Same complicated spreadsheet, Makino on the far right-hand column, areas of advantage are highlighted in yellow, and you can see that even though Makino is a higher price solution, that we have an advantage in overall ROI. Let's look at some of those details. In this example, we're going to produce 37,500 parts per year. Makino's machining time is 29 minutes versus 34 minutes for the low-cost solution. Our uptime and utilization and efficiency is better than a low-cost competitor, but here the numbers only result in a 1 machine advantage, 4 for Makino, 1 for our low-cost competitor. If their machines cost $250,000 and ours cost $375,000, a 50% premium, you can see that the capital cost of machines is a dramatic advantage for the low-cost solution. And again, we must present more information to our financial people to say this isn't a complete story. We continue through this spreadsheet and see the rigging costs, the fixture and durable tooling costs, and the depreciation starts bringing these numbers more on parity between the two solutions. Going deeper into it and looking at the total durable investment, you see that there still is a slight advantage for the low-cost solution. But when you look at the expense side, the operators required, the maintenance cost per machine that Makino has such a dramatic advantage in, the perishable tooling cost, again, assuming a 15% improvement for Makino, as well as the other intangible events, the bottom line at the bottom of this slide shows that a part cost of Makino in this scenario is $30.71, but our low-cost competitor solution part cost is $37.85, a very dramatic difference. So to summarize those, you look at the cost difference of machines, the cycle time improvement, the number of parts we've assumed per day on a 3-year contract, 15% faster, almost 20% lower cost per part, a better return on capital, and a significantly, almost a double gross profit margin improvement. So a machine costing 50% more can actually have a better return on investment and a lower part cost. The next area to consider is what happens to these machines after your 3-year contract. Many of us depreciate those machines over 7 years. Some of us have to depreciate the machines fully during the term of the contract, in this case 3 years. A low-cost machine is going to have minimal value at the end of that 3-year term. But buying a high-quality machine like a Makino, we have seen that it retains up to 50% of its value at the end of that contract. So where is the residual value of the machine tool accounted for in your actual ROI? And what happens to your low-cost machine tool that you purchased after the 3-year contract? Do you dispose of the machine, surplus it out? Or more realistically, do you keep that machine running in your shop for another 5 to 10 years? Because that machine is fully depreciated on your books, your simple ROI calculation makes it look very cheap to keep. But I would argue that that's not an accurate analysis. Because what happens to that low-cost machine during the 4th year through the 12th year? Your maintenance costs on that low-cost machine are going to skyrocket. Your quality and scrap rates are going to suffer. And your perishable tool costs are going to escalate. But many of your maintenance budgets are not directly accounted for in a simple return on investment. So you are left with keeping an inefficient, less reliable machine running for 8 more years that's costing you money and profit and cash in your business. And we think this is a mistake. A couple of examples to dramatize that point. Take a simple ball screw. These can cost $3,700 to $4,900, labor of $2,000. But when a ball screw starts to fail, what happens first? You start scrapping parts. You have unplanned downtime. You're spending for overtime labor to recover your production volumes. So buying an intelligent machine can extend the component life and reliability, reducing these maintenance costs. You'll see it a little bit in the first 3 years, but more importantly, you're going to see it in years 4 through 12 that you're going to keep running those machines. Let me present a couple case studies. We have a Midwest OEM medical manufacturer that's been machining very difficult materials in titanium and cobalt chrome. They have 41 of our horizontal A51 machines installed over a 4-year period, running full-time 250 days a year at maximum efficiency. We have tracked component failures across those 41 machines in a 4-year period. 5 spindles total, 0 way covers, and only 2 ball screws. Their part cost per machine per year were under $1,000 during that 4-year period, and that includes preventive maintenance parts. Another example, a little more testing, is a Tier 1 automotive parts supplier. They have 55 machines, and we track their part usage over a 2-year period. 4 spindles, 3 ball screws. This was a very challenging environment because this particular supplier had no preventive maintenance program. They had no maintenance department. And yet, during that 2-year period, they spent under $4,000 a machine in parts to keep those machines running, 55 machines. And they spent under $1,600 in labor service to keep them running. We know this because they called us every time a machine went down to do all of their service work since they had no maintenance department. So under $6,000 per machine per year in a very challenging, demanding environment. So you look at your total cost of ownership, buying a quality and a highly reliable machine tool will dramatically improve your bottom line with long-term reliability, long-term accuracy, and long-term performance. It's a better return on investment because we keep the machines longer than the 3-year contract that we bought them for. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the benefits of automation. The benefits of automation focus specifically around machine utilization. We have seen standalone machines that are utilized as little as 40% to 65% that can be at 85% or even above 90% when they're automated. That allows you to use more of the available annual hours of 8,760 each year, and that can reduce the number of machines you require to make the same amount of parts. While it's doing that, it's reducing your labor costs because you have a single operator managing multiple machines, reduced ergonomic issues with repetitive movements, and it will improve your competitive position in the marketplace, especially in North America as we compete in a global market. The benefits of automation and machine utilization are very dramatic. Makino can offer a multitude of automation solutions, from our module MMC complex, which delivers pallets between multiple horizontal machining centers, to a pedestal robot loading an individual part to a specific machine, to robots on rails and conveyor systems for high-volume automation. It's very important to look at automation as a solution for the future, and Makino can provide a complete automation solution with the machines and process for your manufacturing project. Now we're going to look a little bit at the impact of leasing versus buying, and I'd like to introduce Tom Scherpenberg. Tom is our customer finance manager here at Makino and is going to explain a little bit of how leasing can dramatically improve your ROI. Tom?
Thanks, Tom. After evaluating the cost per part, as Tom just demonstrated, there's one more cost factor you need to take into consideration. How are you going to pay for the equipment, and what is the burden of those payments on your company? There are two ways to pay for equipment: cash or finance. Paying cash reduces your company's availability to make further investments in other areas such as plant expansion, improvements, marketing, or other future purchases of equipment. Financing allows your company to better match cash flows being generated from the equipment to the monthly payment obligations due under the financing vehicle. There are two ways to finance your purchase: a traditional loan where you pay for a certain monthly amount and own the equipment at the end of the term, or you can lease the equipment. What we will show you over the next couple of slides is how leasing your equipment can be a key acquisition strategy and can actually lower the operating cost of more expensive equipment. Leasing offers your company more flexibility and is more customizable to meet your unique business needs than most other financing options. There are two types of leases: capital and operating. A capital lease is very similar to a term loan. The asset and lease liability is recorded on your company's books, and you record monthly depreciation and interest expense. At the end of the lease, you can buy the equipment for a nominal amount, which can be as low as $1. You are basically paying for the entire cost of the machine over the lease term and own it at the end, just like a traditional loan. An operating lease is very similar to renting the machine over an agreed-upon time period. The monthly payment obligation under an operating lease is expensed in operations. What are some of the other advantages of using this financing strategy? An operating lease also provides you with the lowest monthly payment obligation. You basically are only paying for the value of the equipment you are using during the term of the lease. Therefore, the value of the equipment at the end of the term is the most important cost driver in determining your monthly payment obligation. In addition, at the end of the term, you decide whether you want to extend the term of the lease, buy the equipment, or simply return the equipment. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with leasing, and some of you may have some misconceptions about leasing. Here's a couple of myths I hear when discussing leasing with customers. Leasing is only for assets that become technologically obsolete in a short period of time. The issue with this is that leasing milling machines is not so much technologically obsolescence, but simple wear and tear on the equipment and a desire to avoid costly maintenance and downtime as the equipment ages. Another myth is leasing is too expensive. In reality, leasing is usually less expensive than owning an asset over the long term. Leasing offers cash flow savings on a monthly basis compared to loan payments, or relying on cash or tapping a revolver to purchase the equipment, which can unnecessarily tie up growth capital. Also, under an operating lease, you are only paying for the value of the machine you use over the lease term. Now let's look at the difference in monthly payments between a capital lease and an operating lease. In this example, with the cost, interest rate, and term all being equal. An operating lease lowers your monthly payment obligation by $2,705 per month versus a capital lease, or $97,000 over the lease term, a significant cash savings. As I stated at the beginning of my presentation, leasing your equipment can be a very key acquisition strategy and can actually lower your operating costs of more expensive equipment. Let's take a look at how this works. In this example, we are comparing a $200,000 Makino machine to a $150,000 competitor machine. As you can see, the difference in the monthly payment is only $428 a month, or $15,400 over the 36-month term of the lease for a machine that is $50,000 more expensive. The reason is due to the value of the Makino equipment carrying a higher end-of-term value than our competitors' equipment. Makino Capital Services can assist you with structuring the right financing strategy for your business. Makino Capital Services offers a full suite of financing vehicles, and we offer the highest end-of-term values in the industry. Makino Capital Services also works with you to determine what is the best financing strategy to fit your particular situation. Here is an example of how we were able to put together a financing strategy for one of our customers. This is a privately held parts manufacturer who received a new contract with a new customer. In order to fulfill the entire contract, the company needed 10 machines but only had enough capital to order 4. They were also worried about the order not being extended at the end of the 3-year contract. Makino Capital Services reviewed the situation with the customer and put together a financing solution that allowed the company to purchase all 10 machines and take the entire contract. Since that time, the company has received more orders and purchased 7 additional machines. All this was within an 18-month period. So again, why lease? Leasing allows your company to have better cash flow, obtain better equipment, and generate a better return on your investment. Tom?
Thanks, Tom. So in summary, through this webinar, we tried to show that buying the cheaper machine tool solution could actually cost you more in higher part costs, increased scrap rate, unplanned downtime, higher maintenance costs, while tying up your capital. Buying a quality machine pays for the long term with increased machine utilization, reduced tooling costs, lower part costs, and reduced work in process. We at Makino believe that to remain competitive in this global manufacturing market, you must take advantage of the most advanced machine tool technology that's available. Makino has the machine tools, the engineering expertise, and the financial tools to help you achieve these goals. We'd like to thank you for listening to our webinar. We'll now be open for questions and answers. If you are watching this webinar in an archive form, feel free to submit your questions and we will respond to you in an email fashion.